Today we're going to dig into the story of one of the ancient world's most powerful and, let's be honest, infamous rulers, the Assyrian king Sennacherib. You've probably heard the name, but trust me, the real story is way more interesting than just a list of battles.
So how in the world do you even start to piece together a life from almost 3,000 years ago? Well, you treat it like a historical cold case. You have to go back to the evidence, to the clues he left behind.
And lucky for us, Sennacherib wasn't shy. He left behind a ton of evidence. We've got his official inscriptions, these incredible detailed carvings on his palace walls, bizarre little clay prisms covered in writing, and of course, the actual ruins of the cities he built.
Okay, let's start with the image Sennacherib really wanted everyone to see, the unstoppable, ruthless warrior. And the best place to see that is literally carved into the stone walls of his palace.
He basically created giant stone storyboards of his greatest military hits. The most famous one shows the Siege of Lachish, a really important city in Judah. And this wasn't just art, this was a blow-by-blow account of a battle, designed to send a crystal-clear message: do not mess with Assyria.
I mean, just look at this. You can see the whole terrifying strategy of the Assyrian war machine laid out. First, they build these huge ramps. Then they push the battering rams up. They storm the city. And then comes the grim aftermath. This was pure propaganda, a brutal how-to guide, meant to terrify any other city thinking about rebelling.
But all this talk of conquest leads us to the most famous, and frankly, the most mysterious chapter of his entire military career, the Siege of Jerusalem. And for this part of the story, our star piece of evidence isn't stone, it's clay.
This thing right here? This is the Taylor Prism. Think of it as Sennacherib's official war journal, where he carefully listed all of his victories. And what he says in here, and maybe more importantly, what he doesn't say about Jerusalem, is what's had people buzzing for centuries.
And here it is, one of the most famous lines in all of ancient history. But listen closely to the words he uses. He doesn't say, "I sacked his city," or "I burned Jerusalem to the ground." He says he trapped King Hezekiah like a bird in a cage. Kind of weird, right?
And here's why that's so weird. On that exact same prism, Sennacherib brags about conquering 46 other cities in Judah. He had no problem saying when he won. So why the poetic, cagey language when it comes to the grand prize, Jerusalem?
What's really wild is when you put the two main accounts, Sennacherib's own record and the account in the Bible, side by side, they actually agree on almost everything. The invasion, taking other cities, the siege of Jerusalem, even the fact that a massive tribute was paid. The only thing they don't agree on is why the Assyrians left without capturing the city.
This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? You have the most powerful army on the planet, camped outside the enemy capital, and then they just leave? What happened?
Well, the biblical account in books like Isaiah and 2 Kings tells a story of divine intervention. It says King Hezekiah prayed, and then a mysterious disaster swept through the Assyrian camp overnight, wiping out a huge portion of the army and forcing Sennacherib to pack up and go home.
Now, historians offer a different angle, one that's all about public relations. Assyrian kings were master propagandists. They just didn't record their failures, ever. If a campaign didn't go as planned, maybe because of a plague or supply lines getting cut, they wouldn't admit it. They'd spin it. They'd focus on the tribute they got, like Sennacherib did. In ancient Assyria, you didn't advertise your losses. So the silence about capturing Jerusalem in his own record, it speaks volumes.
But here's the thing. If we only focus on Sennacherib, the warrior, we're missing like half the story. And you could argue we're missing his most lasting legacy, because he was also Sennacherib, the master builder.
All that wealth he got from his conquests, he funneled it into a totally new ambition to make his capital city, Nineveh, the most incredible city the world had ever seen. He wanted to rule not just through fear, but through sheer awe.
And he went all out. He built what he called the Palace Without Rival, this massive complex decorated with all those battle scenes. He built gigantic walls and gates around Nineveh. He created these amazing, lush gardens. And to top it all off, he built a super advanced system of canals to bring water to the whole thing.
And this might just be his masterpiece. To get water to a city and gardens, Sennacherib built the Jerwan Aqueduct. Now, this wasn't just a ditch. It was a massive, stone-arched bridge designed to carry a canal across a valley for miles. It was a staggering feat of engineering, centuries ahead of its time. It just proves he wasn't just a brute, he was a brilliant innovator.
So, after all that, How do we sum this guy up? What's the verdict on Sennacherib?
His reign was really a tale of two extremes. He starts as a conqueror, launches that infamous campaign in 701, and then in 689, he absolutely flattens the rival city of Babylon. But he then uses the spoils from all that destruction to become one of history's greatest builders, before it all ends violently when he's assassinated by his own kids. He was a creator and a destroyer, all wrapped into one.
Sennacherib made sure his story was carved in stone for everyone to see. But the whole mystery around Jerusalem shows us that sometimes the most important part of the story is the part that isn't there. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? When we look back at history, what's more revealing? The story someone wanted us to hear, or the one they strategically and very quietly left out?